This is what, 4 men, a little bit of luck, a little risk, and a lot of physics can get done.
Who are you? 11501.
Welcome to my most ambitious project yet. People who watch my channel will know that I consider myself to be an 83% guy. My enthusiasm for a project takes me through that first progress, and then I fade as the drudge phase begins. The little stuff that comes without a big reward. I've never found joy in the last 17%, but I have to believe that it takes true love for something, for someone to push through to the end, at least for me. This is my 1972 Alfa Romeo GTV. The GTV debuted in September of 1963 with a twin-cam aluminum block, dual carbs, 5-speed transmission, 4-wheel disc brakes. It was designed by Giorgetto Guijario, arguably one of the best, greatest industrial designers of our time. He designed cameras, firearms, motorcycles, and even some watches. Cars were his real contribution. Aston Martin DB7, Ferrari 250, Fiat, Alfa, plus a ton of Volkswagens and cars into the 70s. Even in this car's sorry state, it's easy to see that this is something special. I don't know what it weighs right now, but fully loaded, it's a 2,200-pound car. This car is functional, and I'm sure it's fast. Prices for restored examples are pushing $60,000 to $80,000, and I'm sorry to say this will never be restored on my watch, being an 83%er and all. But I've always wanted one. I first became interested in owning one of these 25 years ago when I was living in Cincinnati, Ohio. A terrible place and time to buy one in this price range that I was looking for. For one thing, it was the Rust Belt, and second, it was a used Italian car close to the bottom of its depreciation curve. Everyone I looked at had a destroyed interior, extensive rust damage. I never even got to drive one. I gave up. Since then, I've watched surviving examples soar in price with the occasional rust bucket with no title coming into my peripheral vision, but I believe I missed out. And rust is really synonymous with alphas. Imagine a car with little or almost no rust proofing. They throw it on a boat for an ocean voyage to the States. They store it on a dock waiting for it to go to a dealer. And then once it gets where it's going, it gets sold. And then it gets put on salted roads. It's a miracle that any of these survived. They say they rust from the inside out, so even if you don't see rust, there's going to be rust somewhere. So what's the story on this car? Well, it was abandoned in a body shop a long time ago. It was brought in stripped to be repainted, and it was left that way. I can only imagine somewhere there's a box of parts sitting in a garage somewhere, never to be reunited with this body. Just one big mystery for somebody. The shop eventually closed, and a guy living across the street bought the body to put on a 4-wheel drive frame he had. 5 years later, he gave up on that dream, and I came along. Thank goodness. I believe these kinds of cars will outlast us all. We're really just caretakers for these things, and we have a responsibility to leave them better than we find them. I could sell this for some money to someone who has a $30,000 car and wants to make it into a $60,000 car by swapping everything over to a better body. But then I would miss out. And money's a poor substitute for the joy and satisfaction that I'm going to get working on this thing. Plus, I think it's going to make me better. It's going to give me a chance to improve my skills and get this thing back on the road. So follow me as I introduce you to this project, show you its faults and strengths, and start thinking about my plan to get this beauty back on the road. It won't be perfect. It's not going to be pretty. It might make you cringe. But if I was this car, I'd prefer to sing and fly down a mountain road imperfectly than sit in a dark garage waiting to be perfect. Let's talk about some basic principles that I intend to follow as I kind of go through this. I'm not going to be limited by correctness. I think different collectors have different personalities, and the alpha owners that I've been involved with have been those perfection people. This thing is likely to end up with a spider drivetrain and a custom wire harness. And who knows what else. But I'm not going to make any changes that alter the car in a way that it can't be restored back to its original condition at some point in the future if someone wants to do that. So the other thing I'll say is that I won't take a viable car off the road. And so I do have this spider that I've resurrected. It's been sitting for 25 years, and it's finally alive again. Starts at the first turn of the key and runs and drives. It still needs a little bit of stuff, but I'm not gonna take this car apart to make that car run. Even though I know full well that the suspension and everything is identical to this. The engine and drivetrain is identical to this. The rear axle is identical to this. And the only thing that's really different is the drive shaft is a different length. And then the interior parts, some of them will work, some of them won't, but I'm not going to do it. I'm telling myself that now, and I'm telling you so that you can hold me accountable. The third principle is really going to be budget. I know I'm going to have to spend some money. I mean, this thing is missing most of the glass. It's got the two doors, but it's missing one of the wing windows, front and rear windshields, the rear windows on the sides. All that stuff's super expensive, along with the weather stripping and everything else. But I'm going to spend the money on that stuff because there's not really a good substitute. But where I can, I'm going to substitute functionally similar parts. And so that'll be spider parts or whatever else. So I'm going to be looking for a spider that is no longer viable for the road, and I'm going to borrow stuff from it and then eventually crush the car. It's possible that lightning could strike twice and I might stumble upon another GTV parts car, but even parts cars are going up for upwards of 10 grand. And that's a lot of money to put into a parts car. So let's dive right in, and I'll show you what I've done so far and what I'm doing.
Let's spend a little time cleaning it up and see what we've really got.
Yeah, I might have called this car rust-free when I first got it. I had my rose-colored glasses on, and people said, well, you know, there's always rust. And I always think people like that are just haters, and they don't want to admit that there are rust-free cars. But this car is remarkably rust-free, but it does have some rust. And so let's do a quick rundown of what it does have. It's got a lot of surface rust, and my plan is to it's just on the body, but what my plan is to take it and treat it with OSFO, or this phosphoric acid. Basically, you put a light coat on it. It does something to kind of convert the rust, and then you wash it off and neutralize it. Throw a light sand on it and put some primer on it, and that's what I plan to do as I get it into an indoor storage area. You'll notice that there's a little bit of daylight showing on either side of this door panel. So there's some thin metal here, and it's probably rusting from the inside because it doesn't look like it's rusting from the outside. These cars are known for rust along the rockers, and there's a little bit right there, a little there, a little right there. Yeah, and so then actually you can see a little bit right there as well. But that's not horrible, and it's all completely repairable. The rest of this looks great. One of the areas they tend to rust is around this back window. Water gets in these channels and then causes them to rust. And you can see we've got some corrosion here, but nothing that's breaking through. So that's a good thing. Let's keep going around the outside. Let me see if I can pop this open for you. It's stuck. All right. We do have rust back here. And so that's the spare wheel, the spare tire, where the spare tire goes. And you can see that we've got pretty decent rust here and here and all around. So, but other than that, we look good in here. And I think that that's repairable. It's something that we can fix. And it's a common area for these cars to rust. Moving around to this side, we can see that everything looks solid here. There's a little bit of rust right in here. Yep, I mean, that's completely gone right there. So that's going to be an area that needs to be repaired. The wheel wells are looking remarkably good. This looks good in here. It looks like a repair was made there with body filler. So we'll have to look and see what's under there and see if we can't do a better repair on that. Right here on this thing, whatever you call that, this piece, there's a hole right there, which means we've got some thin metal there that will need to be repaired. And then down here, we look pretty good. It looks like some filler has been put on here. You can't, I don't know if you can even see me just showing that right there. There you go. And then all the way up, we've got a few small holes. The inside the car, since we're here, we've got a floor pan hole right there, and then we have a little bit of rust around the drain hole. If we move back here, we have some holes that have been drilled, I think, right here, or maybe that's just a rust hole. And then we have a little bit of rust right in there. And then over on that side at the very back, along the seam, I know that there's a little bit of rust on the underside there. So that's a common place where water tends to pool. But generally, the rest of the car is pretty rust-free. Let's move to the front. And there's a nice layer of Bondo here. So who knows what's behind that. I'll have to look and see if it's been wrecked. I didn't find a lot of evidence of damage on the car from accident damage. Okay. Yeah, and then we've got some repair going on here and a little bit of filler. So yeah, so I'm not sure what we're going to find when we really get into it, but at least for now, that's kind of my initial observations. Underneath, we have a really clean car, I think. I mean, generally speaking. Oh, let's see if we can. Hopefully, that wind won't be too much for you. But you can see the places where the suspension bolts and everything else are all good. And then over here we've got, there's that spare wheel well. There's floor pan, a little bit of damage there. This car has not been on a wheels for a long time, and so it's probably been moved once or twice, and it'll be moved again. I'm planning to try to get this on a trailer and wash it down, and there's that rust I was talking about at the rear seam, and so that's going to require this piece to be removed, and then it's going to have to be repaired from about right here to around this corner here. But I think that's completely repairable. Yeah, it's rusted under here, and so I'm going to have to be able to get to that. But yeah, it's generally a very clean car, very solid. Could be driven as is, but I think that to keep it from getting worse, it would be the right thing to do to fix it. So that's the condition. More rust on the edge of the hood. That looks like that's it. So yeah, so there's a lot of small repairs that need to take place, and I'm not much of a welder, but I think I'm going to be learning how to do that. So that's my latest project, and it's a big one, and I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to let it make me happy, and I'm going to work on it over time and not be in a big hurry and not be in a rush to get it on the road, but instead rather spend the time on it so that when I do get it on the road, it will be a good car. This car obviously was used because we've got some wear in the door panel. Actually, let's see. You can see the movement in the hinge, so the hinge will need to be rebuilt on this side. We have keys, which is amazing. We have this key, and then we have one in the ignition, but there's not much in the way of wiring in here, and so and then there's no pedals, but I believe that the spider ones may fit. If not, I think I can buy some. I've seen some for sale. So it's getting to be spring here on the homestead, and there's a lot of work to be done. I spent some time today getting the chickens' coop lined out with nesting boxes and with places for them to roost. And then there's some garden beds to be dug and some fencing to be put up, and we're going to be getting bees, and so there's a lot of work to do. And so this project is going to have to fit within those priorities. And one of the biggest things I've got to do right away is get it out of the weather. And that means I have to make some space in my shop. And so I'm going to be doing some work to reorganize in there and find a place for that car. And most likely I'll be storing it either on jack stands or on my quick jack lift. And then that'll allow me to get around it and to start doing some work. Got a plan. I've got to move it. It's heavy, even though it's not 2,200 pounds. It's probably a good 1,000 or 1,200 pounds, if not more. And I'll have to figure out a way to move it by myself without damaging it or dropping it on me. So lots to come. I'll be making some more videos on this car as we go, and I'll be continuing to work on my other projects and getting those to be a little past that 83% mark. And I hope that I can have you join me for some of that. And I appreciate your watching and your attention. Thank you.